I was listening to a podcast the other day who he's done a lot of interesting things, but currently he's working for Adobe and he's creating their new universal camera app. And they don't have a universal camera app right now, but basically the idea is that it would be an app that you could install on any phone and it would be able to use like the raw camera data from any camera. So then you could like import it into Lightroom and they wouldn't just be getting like a JPEG, they'd be getting like all the camera data, which is pretty cool. But anyways, nerdy shit. But what he was talking about was, so Nilay Patel was the guy that was interviewing him.
I like him.
Yeah.
You like him too. He's the one who does the SEO, the keywords everywhere or whatever it is.
He's not.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
That's not.
Yeah.
That's that's not the same person. Nilay Patel is the editor-in-chief of The Verge. Nilay Patel is also a very similar, very common name. Patel is like super common.
I know Patel, but the like, how do you spell it?
It doesn't matter. It's not the same guy, but it's Nilay. It's not the same guy.
It's different.
But,
we were thinking the same guy.
We were thinking the same guy. Yeah, my bad.
But anyways, oops. Nilay Patel was the interviewer, and he asked him about the idea of like filters and beauty filters and skin smoothing and all these different types of things, because like by default, for example, Samsung phones have beauty smoothing and skin smoothing and beauty mode. For when you turn the selfie camera on a Samsung phone, by default beauty mode is on. It makes your skin smoother, makes your face skinnier. It gives you a false perception of who you are by default, and you have to turn those off. It's actually really hard to turn off all the options on a Samsung phone.
There's a part in the Social Dilemma where they talk about plastic surgeons even being like, yo, girls are coming in by the droves and they say they want to, like, they want to look like
they
will literally hold up a picture of their Snapchat filters and be like, I want to look like this one, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
It is crazy. And
they talk about suicide rates between like young adolescents, like 18 to 24s, and then like the 13 to 17s, and like, fuck, dude, that's crazy. And the advent of social media on mobile, it was like right at the moment social media came on mobile, it was like
around like 2011. You just see like the statistics, which is very interesting, by the way, all the statistics they show.
Yeah. Jonathan Haidt was interviewed in The Social Dilemma. He's the guy who wrote The Coddling of the American Mind, I believe it's called.
You've mentioned that like multiple times on multiple podcasts. I feel like
a book pretty much entirely about that whole concept. It's insane. But I lost my train of thought, but so he's asking
beauty filters.
Yes, Nilay is asking this guy about what he thinks about this kind of stuff, because obviously if you build it, they will come type shit. You know, it's like when you build this stuff into it. And what he was saying is, he's like, do you feel any kind of responsibility for this type of stuff? Do you feel, and he's like, no, because anytime you build anything, there's the ability for people to use it for good and people to use it for evil. Like, there's always potential for people to misuse a thing that you've created. You can use a hammer to build something productive and make a house. You can also use a hammer to smash yourself in the head or smash someone else in the head.
Murder someone. Yeah.
So it's like, the second that the tools are working against us, that's where it's the problem. But if it's truly a tool, the tool has no moral value. It's like, is a bullet inherently evil? No. But anyways, the point of what I was saying is, I think for me personally, social media has been a very net positive thing in my life, but I can also see where it has had negatives, like for sure. But I think it all goes back to like how you use it and having a very healthy mindset around it and being conscious of these things, because the only way that you can like truly attack the enemy is to like know the enemy. You know, like the only way
to
you
win
can
the game is to know the rules. Shit,
exactly. Yeah. The only way to win is to know the rules. And so like the same goes with social media. And I think just for me personally, like my biggest real world takeaways of The Social Dilemma in general is, number one, like turn off pretty much all push notifications.
All notifications. Even before seeing Social Dilemma, the only notification I have on was text messaging and phone calls. That's it.
Dude, my dad has CNN updates that ping every like 10 seconds on his phone.
God.
It's like honestly kind of scary. I'm like, literally, like his phone will go off and he's like, oh. And it's like, oh, it was just CNN. It's like, dude, why do you have that even on? Yeah. You're going to go to the app anyways. That's the biggest thing for me is I'm going to end up, because I know myself, I'm going to end up going to all these apps anyways.
Seriously.
I'm going
to check email.
I'm not going to check email. So I do have those notifications on because I don't have inbox zero. So I don't really go to my inbox. I only do it by notifications. Like if I see something that's important, I'm like, I'll leave the notification there. But like text messages and email I have on, but Facebook completely off. I do have notifications for Facebook Messenger though. You know, people are trying to get in touch with me, whatever. It's kind of same as SMS for me.
Yeah.
The one that's hard is Instagram, right? Because Instagram, I talk to people in the DMs a lot on Instagram.
Same. That's like replying to comments and DMs are like the most activity.
But I know that I'm going to go to Instagram anyways. And the thing that I found is like pretty healthy for me on Instagram. So for example, on my desktop, my shortcut for Facebook. So Facebook on my desktop, I have an app called Newsfeed Eradicator that's really good.
Oh, yeah.
You can install it on Chrome. It basically gets rid of the newsfeed. Like there is no way to actually see the newsfeed. So when you open up facebook.com, the only things you see are like the search bar, the little things on the side, and the stuff on the right side. The thing in the middle is like an inspirational quote, and it changes every time you refresh the page. So that's a really good app to use.
I mean, I never go on desktop anyway, so.
Well, I work on my desktop for work, obviously. I'm editing constantly. So when I'm editing and I'm needing to find a clip of someone of Chelsea Hill dancing or something, I'm going to go to Instagram.com and search it. But as soon as I go to Instagram.com, I'm getting sucked into the newsfeed immediately. I see all the stories at the top and I see all this. So one thing I did was change my Instagram shortcut on my desktop. Instead of going to Instagram.com, it goes to Instagram.com/inbox. So it goes to my DMs first so I don't get sucked into the newsfeed. But the search bar is still there so I can search for things immediately. Because that's always the biggest thing is like you go to this social media thing with intentions of doing a specific thing, but then you immediately get sucked into the bullshit.
Every time. I've done that before. So I've got this habit of going in this like loop where I'm like, okay, like if I open up Instagram, it's like Instagram notifications, Instagram DM. Then I jump to Facebook and I go Facebook personal notifications. Then I'll do Wheels to Walking notifications. Then I'll do inbox. And then I jump to YouTube and look at the comments. And then I jump to the email and make sure everything's okay. And I'll make that full cycle and I'll set down my phone and like, oh, fuck. I was just going to copy a URL. Like, how did I end up here? Like, how the fuck did I end up here? Like, I just went through...
In 10 to 15, 20, 30 minutes, just went away.
I just went through a loop. And I'm like, Jesus. And then I'll jump back on there and be like, and then I'll go, and then I'll complete the task I meant to complete in the first place. Like,
exactly.
Like
Sometimes you even close the app and you go, oh, I was going to do that thing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's the worst.
I've done that
and
way too
so
many
those
times.
are some things I've definitely done. I've pretty much turned off push notifications for everything. YouTube was one that I had push notifications turned on for because like turn on the bell and like we're telling people to do that. But like, I think I turned that off mainly because it wasn't even distracting me. Like I typically go to YouTube for like I'm sitting down to eat dinner. I'm like, I'm going to watch some YouTube.
Right.
Like YouTube's not one of those ones where it's just easy to like get sucked into a rabbit hole.
You kind of have to commit to YouTube.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I'll open up YouTube and if I ever get sucked into a YouTube, it's just because like my front page has a bunch of videos I want to watch and I'm like, okay, watch later.
I'm a watch later whore for sure. I have like 2,000 videos in my watch later.
That's a lot. Do you not delete them after you watch them?
No.
Oh, I always do.
I delete them too, yeah.
I'm like, synced it. Flop.
Yeah, well, the watch later playlist used to not be very intuitive, and I've been on YouTube for years. And so first of all, the other thing that messed me up was I never knew that you could sort the watch later playlist by recently added, so it was always by the oldest videos.
Oh, and you got annoyed because it was backwards.
I was just always scrolling so far. And then finally I figured it out that you could resort it. But anyways, I never really used that feature much. And so I remember like, because typically when you add something to watch later, it will also re-pop up in your home feed later too. Like you don't necessarily have to go to that playlist. It's like, YouTube knows that it's in the watch later playlist, so it starts putting it back on your homepage later on.
Yeah.
So that's why I would always do
ever
that.
re-added anything into your watch later? Be like, oh, that's a Drew. I haven't seen that Drew Gooden video, and you hit watch. You hit
just delete from watch later.
And I'm like, oh, it's already in there.
Yeah. Another thing that I'll do is since I have Facebook or YouTube Premium, I'll download the video. So then like later, I'm like, okay, this one's on my phone. I don't have to like buffer. I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, YouTube I turned off. Mainly just because it was getting annoying. But yeah, I've turned off a lot of notifications. And the other thing in the social dilemma that it talks about is kind of like the divisiveness.
Yeah.
This is something I've talked about a lot on the podcast. But like on my personal channels, I like to have people from both sides because I don't identify typically with like one specific ideology so hardcore.
Because
like,
idiots on both sides. There are literally idiots on both sides.
Yeah, I try to take multiple perspectives into account. So like, for example, on Facebook, like I'm part of like feminist Facebook groups and then I'm part of like very misogynistic Facebook groups because I like to see what people are like actually saying, you know, like I don't want to hide myself from like stuff that I think is uncomfortable or whatever. I want to see it so I can know how to address it when I see it in real life. And then on Instagram, another thing that I did recently, one person posted about this is like unfollow like every Instagram thought. And like I'd pretty much done that a while ago when I like tried to get under 1,000. Like I pretty much unfollowed like every like hot girl, quote unquote, that I was following. But one thing that I have started following more is art pages and like tattoo pages and things that like inspire me to create or be creative. Because when I see those types of things on my feed, it like inspires me to go like do something or feel something versus just mindlessly scrolling through like just got promoted, just got, happy anniversary, happy, oh my gosh, my best friend just got engaged, blah, 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 blah. Cause that's like all the grid is nowadays.
Booty pics.
Yeah. But I do like, I do feel like stories is a really good way.
Stories, dude, because I can kind of see what people are up to and I can reply to stories.
That's the thing.
Like, honestly,
you get to keep up with friends that you don't typically get to keep up with.
You will not catch me scrolling the feed for more than like 2 minutes, but like I'll watch hours of stories. Like, because I'm like, okay.
You ever reach the end of your stories?
I mean, I used to, but now I don't anymore.
That's a sad moment.
Yeah.
When it goes, that's all for today. And you go, I watched every story.
Damn. All 1,000 plus people
I
you
need
follow.
to get a hobby.
Hope you enjoyed that clip. If you'd like to see the full episode, click right here. If you'd like to subscribe, click here. If you'd like more clips, we got 2 more right over here.